What a terrible way to die. Oh no, they played a growing sludge. They have a growing sludge. I'm just dead, right? Wait, no. Get dunked on, growing sludge. Hey everyone, Pojo here. We're off today, but I wanted to take a quick moment to discuss the new stealth cards and the new stealth mechanics, since I've had a little bit of time to play with it in Limited and Expedition, and as well as a little bit in Throne, I suppose, and have been really enjoying it, finding it a lot of fun to fiddle around with. There's a lot of really interesting interactions, but we wanted to talk today about sort of how to guess what stealth cards your opponent has, and how to effectively counter them, or basically just how to deal with stealth. So we're going to be discussing the mechanic a little bit and talking a little bit about basically how to accurately predict what kind of cards your opponent has under the table. So as is true of Eternal in general, having a knowledge of the card base of the format that you are in can be really, really helpful for understanding what your opponent is playing and why they are playing it. This applies to sort of meta type setups, but basically if you are in a draft environment, then you should know sort of what combat tricks there are, so that when you see a pause and your opponent has power up, you can sort of guess based on the limited pool of fast spells what kind of cards that they might actually have in hand. For example, if they're in red and they have about 2 power and they get a pause, then they might have a char, or they might have the +2/+0 effect that gives you the quick draw, and just things like that, where basically you can sort of tell what cards people have in their hands because you see a response window there. With stealth cards, it's the same basic thing. You want to sort of think about what the common and uncommon options are in Limited, and what the really popular meta choices are in Expedition formats, to figure out what kind of cards your opponents might be running. So, for example, what I am doing at the moment, since it's currently day 1 or 2 or 3, is that whenever somebody plays a stealth unit and I am not immediately sure what it is, I go to Eternal Warcry and I just type in stealth in the search bar. And then we just set that up, and we make sure that we can figure out what cards are available in the pool. So we have the entire list of stealth cards in front of us. We can see that the gray ones, of course, are the common ones, and we're just going to take a quick look and figure out what kind of options our opponents are in. So if they're in red and yellow, then they're only going to have cards in these colors. There are, of course, 3 colorless options as well, but only 2 of them are common, and the last one is rare. So you're not going to see Undercover Enforcer very much. You might see Hired Cutthroat or Manufactured Force pretty commonly, and Camouflage Soldier can happen. I would say it's not a terribly likely card to be played because it's A, uncommon, and B, it doesn't really do much on 3 or really on 5. It's just kind of it's underwhelming in both circumstances, but you might see it. So yeah, once you know what colors they are, you have a limited pool, and then from there you can also do some process of elimination. For example, if your opponent is in red and at the start of their turn nothing happens, they didn't play a red stealth card, because every single red stealth card has the ability at the start of your turn, reveal this card, and you can get something to happen. Sanity Scorcher plays, Rampaging Commando plays Rampage, Last Line Defender plays Power Burst, Evoker plays this, Callous Triggerman does this. So also notable is that if they are playing red cards and you want to deal with the card right away, it's a really good idea to do it to red cards, because red cards are going to get that advantage when they reveal at the start of their turn. But if you aren't sure what the card is and nothing happens at the start of the opponent's turn, then you have a better guess as to what they are doing. For example, in I think the clip that we showed, we're up against a time deck. There are still other ways to sort of get that process of elimination and determine what people are playing. Obviously, the cost of the card matters, paying at 3 or at 5. There are, of course, a few cards with Intrigue that can play at 5 even if they are 3-drops, so you have to keep those in mind. But knowing the cost of the card, you'll have a decent idea of what it's playing. In time, the most common play is generally Nurturing Sentinel. This is just a higher picked card than I think most of the other commons. Concealed Veteran is actually a pretty good card in my opinion, but Nurturing Sentinel really does a lot of the things that time decks want to do, so in a limited environment you're going to see this card a lot. On the 5-drop slot, you're very likely to see Growing Sludge. This one has that +4/+4 ability, and as you saw from our initial clip, we actually immediately immediately guessed it was Growing Sludge after our opponent attacked, but didn't do anything else with their turn, because Growing Sludge, when it stays hidden, continues to grow. So after our opponent attacked, when they decided not to attack with the stealth unit, most of these stealth cards either reveal themselves at the start of the turn or have some benefit when they attack you. So if there isn't an attack, then we know that it's either a Growing Sludge or like a Sticky Flytrap, but of course those two cards are differently costed. So we can tell immediately from the 5-drop slot, our opponent's in time, are they attacked? So they didn't attack with the stealth units. The stealth unit must be a sludge, and therefore we have to reveal it in order to get that sort of extra bonus. So yeah, like there are always a couple of cards that you can eliminate just based on knowing what the cards are. Stuff like Sky Sweeper, which you can discard to get the +2/+2. There's a lot of like start of your turn stuff that can get tossed out of the way. There are also some cards that have Reckless, and Reckless still applies while you are in stealth. So Cyber Hyena, for example, at the start of your opponent's turn, will have to attack, and you can determine if the card is going to be a Cyber Hyena from that if you're interested in trying. There aren't too many blue stealth cards that are going to attack you very frequently. Most of these are going to be played fairly defensively. Hidden Crusader has to reveal itself on your opponent's turn, so that's like sort of a thing that you want to keep an eye on. But generally, like these types of cards, you are going to see like played a little more defensively. The shadow cards often have to attack, and typically when they attack you have a better idea of what they are and how much health they have. For example, there is a 2 that hit the enemy player at common, and if your opponent is attacking you with a stealth unit at common, you probably have a pretty good idea that that unit has less than 3 health, because all of the shadow cards have to attack to get real benefits, except to Stalking Assassin, and also tend to have very little health, so they're fairly easy to block even though they are often like 3 attack units. So pay attention to sort of what colors your opponents are in, what type of deck they are playing. Obviously, if they are playing an expedition deck, then the pool of cards that they can be playing is a lot larger, but because they're going to be looking specifically for more meta choices, this is something where they can get like a pretty significant amount of benefits from only cards that are really, really fitting to them. So you want to look for tribal synergies, you want to look for things that might fit their particular plan. Not everyone's going to be running Subversion Slug to protect their Toxic Cloud or anything like that. You're definitely going to see cards that only fit a particular style, and from there you can typically narrow it down to 1 or 2 units. One final note on stealth cards: remember that anything that targets a stealth unit can reveal the stealth unit. So you can use all sorts of effects based off of units or spells to take a peek. Should I be attacking here? I don't think so. I think there's a charged sentinel in the mix that I want to block.
Keep to the alleys.
What do you do? You're another Leatherhide. Okay, cool. So yeah, allied mechanics like Finest Hour, anything where you get like a bonus. You can do all sorts of different things to look at or reveal a card, particularly if it's a card that you know you need to reveal in order to prevent it from doing a thing. So keep those in mind because they're often really, really useful bonus effects. It also should affect your picks and draft somewhat. The ability to reveal stealth units can be really, really handy if you can do it for free just by targeting a card. It's like popping an Aegis, it's like popping a regen shield. If you can do it without really costing yourself much, it tends to help your board state and allow you to get a better result, either by blocking the stealth reveal at start of turn effects or by just guessing what the card is so that you don't get tricked by it later. It's definitely really, really useful, so keep that in mind as well. All right, that's me on stealth. We'll be back tomorrow with a stream on Friday, so stay tuned for that. As always, you can sub to me on Twitch with your Amazon Prime sub. You can find me here on YouTube as LocoPojo. I'm also on Patreon, and you can check my Twitter for updates on the schedule anytime we're, missing something, and just, general notes on Eternal and random ramblings. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Cheers!